Hello and welcome to this week's MoneyFit live webinar, Financially Empowered Seniors, Financial Safeguards for Our Maturing Population. My name is Todd Christensen. I'm Education Manager at MoneyFit, author, and today's facilitator. Looking forward to sharing some information with you, whether you are the senior or whether it's a family member or loved one. There is information here that should benefit all of us. Let's go ahead and jump right into this. First of all, let's talk about the issues facing our mature population. Here are signs that there's trouble in financial, not so much paradise. What are some of the signs that there's some things going on that need to be addressed? One, there's some banking issues. Obviously, if there's no balancing of the checkbook going on for somebody who's done it their whole life, there might be some issues to discuss. Other types of things to look for, bounced checks. Once a year, it might be understandable. If it's regular, if it's every month, every couple of months, even every 5 or 6 months, that means an extra $30 to $40 in overdraft fees or bounced return check fees. There's something going on there that needs to be addressed. Perhaps debit cards that are declined for a purchase. That's another sign. Again, every once in a while, no big deal. We're looking for patterns here. If you are the senior and you're realizing, hey, this is the third decline I've had in the last month, that's a sign that it's an opportunity to turn to somebody who's got some experience in helping you work things out, to work so that things are smoother and you're not getting hit with any additional fees. Is there debt going on? Yes, quite a few people in retirement have mortgage debt, and many also have credit card debt. That does not mean it's okay. Credit card debt is eating away. The interest on credit card debt is eating away at your ability to make purchase of other things or spend money on other things that you would rather spend money on. So minimizing credit card debt is a big issue. We'll talk a little more about options there. If there's no savings at all, or if savings are depleting rapidly, there needs to be a discussion about household spending and available resources. If you're worried that there are some scams going on in your life or in the life of your loved one, that there might be a fraudster showing up or getting involved, there are opportunities to address those as well. You have to take advantage of them. Or just generally, if you are losing sleep at night, you're worrying about your finances, or if your loved one mentions that they are worried about their money, it's an opportunity to have a discussion and to see how to promote short and long-term financial goals, life goals. What is it that you need money for? What is it you want to achieve or do with money? And let's talk to somebody who can make that help provide information, become a resource for making that actually happen. So let's move on to talking about why, when seniors have major financial problems, filing for bankruptcy being the biggest, what are the main causes? Not surprisingly, medical is in there, but it is not number one or even number two, surprisingly. People who file for bankruptcy, and we've helped people go through, get their counseling certificate and education certificate during that process. And we've asked and surveyed them, and those who are going through the process do not identify medical issues as the main cause. Even among seniors, it is by far income reduction and followed by just plain old overspending. 85% of seniors going through bankruptcy after retirement will have money in the bank. They have $1,000 or more in savings, which is much more than the typical household in this country. But what is happening is income is reduced, either going from full-time income to Social Security only, or two incomes down to one income, down to no incomes, whatever it might be. That income reduction, a lot of houses are not prepared for it. And it's a lot, losing an income happens a lot faster than most households can adjust spending. It's hard to get rid of a house payment. If you have a house payment, you have to sell it. That's a big deal if you want to get into a smaller monthly payment. Car payments, it's a big deal to give up a vehicle. So it's a lot of work to adjust to the new income. The number two, as I mentioned, is credit card debts, overspending, just too much consumer debt. Very common issue. 84% of seniors going through bankruptcy have excessive credit card debt. They think credit card debt played a major role. Still the second issue after income changes, but still ahead of medical. After medical, then comes divorce, which still happens even in the golden years. And being widowed can happen. It happens much more frequently, obviously, and that can have a major impact on household finances. So when you are looking down the road at your own finances, asking yourselves what is it that's threatening my personal finance, my ability to do what I have planned for in this life? Is it an income reduction or loss of income? Is it overspending on credit cards and the interest that goes with it? Is it potential for medical issues? Is it divorce, looming divorce, or is it being widowed? Are things in order there? Okay, so let's just go through a discussion about where you think you are, because as far as income and the limitations on income is, as I mentioned, the biggest issue for the major financial problems in retirement. And if I were to ask you to rate yourself 0 to 5, rate not yourself, but rate these situations on why your income is limited. Is it limited because of age discrimination or employability? If you think that's just by your choice, that's a 5. If you think it is, you have nothing to do with it, it's all on perception on somebody else, that's a 0, or somewhere in between. Lack of time to work. Do you choose not to work? Do you choose to spend your time with family, with friends, with loved ones, doing activities that you would prefer rather than working? Is it a physical mobility issue? Are there physical health issues? Is it a knowledge and skill issue? Rate yourself on all of those. You can pause this if you're watching this on archive, and you can get an idea of where do you feel your income is most limited by yourself and most limited by others. Then here's what we fairly regularly see something like this. If I'm going to talk to if I'm going to talk to seniors, this is what I might hear fairly often is age discrimination. No, it's age discrimination. I'm not going to get any younger. The reality is, some is not that easy to discuss. And we're going to go through, I think, what closer reality can be. But there is age discrimination in spite of laws and programs. But we'll hear, hey, I choose to do with my time what I want. I choose not to work. That's pretty common. So that one, there's a lot more choice in that, as well as skills and knowledge. Most people recognize, look, I can choose to learn something new if I want to. That's a choice. Transportation is a big one. I choose to drive. I have choice on how I want to get around. But there are the others that we feel like we have no choice on. Besides the age discrimination, we feel I have no choice on getting income because it's going to threaten my Social Security, or we might not understand how income would change our Social Security, or even more so Social Security disability, or if we're being threatened with the foreclosure or repossession of a vehicle or garnishment, that we feel like we have no control. There's nothing we can do about it. Let's talk about it, because this is, I think, a little more closer to reality. I'm not going to say rosier, outlook just because of the color. But the reality is there are programs, there are laws, of course, that prohibit age discrimination, even though there are organizations that will figure out a way around it. They don't want to hire somebody that is 62 years old because they know they're going to be retiring in 3 or 4 or 5 years, don't want to put in that time. But there are also programs available that specifically work with seniors to provide opportunities for work. We'll talk more about that here in a moment. Time, we have complete control over our time. Sometimes that's the only thing we have to control over is how we choose to spend our time. There is sometimes when we don't get to choose, when we are incapacitated, of course. Physical mobility, there are a lot of not just programs, but equipment and things that we can look into getting that can help promote continued work as we choose. But also, even if we can't leave the house, if and all else being equal, if that's the reason why we don't go to work, we may just not be aware that there's so many opportunities anymore to work from home. Whether it's on the phone, whether it's online, there are a lot of opportunities to earn an income from the comforts of your own couch, or even comforts of just sitting in bed and working on a computer, sometimes that way. Skills and knowledge, there are a lot of programs in the community, Department of Labor, or whatever it's called in your state, that offer training to all people of all age levels, but some of them specifically for seniors. Creditors threatening to take away a home. Obviously, you have some choice. You can work with an attorney to figure out how to protect your home or any other assets that are under threat. But there are other opportunities as well, besides preventing them down the road. But you can look at organizations like a nonprofit credit counseling agency like MoneyFit. If you see that there's debt issues and you're worried that there's a collection agency that might go to court, get a judgment, and then start taking income or threaten any other property you might have. That you have options. The longer you wait, the fewer options you do have, of course. Social Security threats. If you're full retirement age, you get that income. You're not going to lose your income. Social Security disability, there is some limitations on your income, how much you can earn if you're receiving Social Security disability. And at a certain level, it starts to affect for every $1 or $2 you earn, it starts bringing your Social Security disability down by $1 until you don't get any Social Security disability. But there are other opportunities that do not count toward your Social Security disability income at all. Things like, and they may not be called jobs, but things like volunteering for an AmeriCorps or Vista or any of these senior Job Corps organizations, opportunities where you volunteer for however many hours a week, and you receive some pay, you receive some medical benefits also, and those do not count against your Social Security disability income. Additionally, if you are, for example, volunteering for the county ride for seniors who need a ride to medical appointments, quite often there's programs that will reimburse you for your mileage. That mileage reimbursement is completely tax. It has no effect on. It's not income, so it has no effect on taxes. It has no effect on your disability income either. All right. So, what are some opportunities? This is just a starter list. There are literally you can just Google 99 side gigs or side hustles. Those are the two terms that people will talk about. How to keep earning money even into your retirement years or even before your retirement years on the side while you're still working full time. So this would include driving, ride sharing, Uber, Lyft, those sort of things, or food delivery, like Uber Eats, Grubhub, DoorDash, Postmates, any of these services that you sign up, you get an order on your phone, you go to the restaurant, they have it all ready for you, or you wait while they fix it, you put it in a bag that you have, you drive it to the house, and you pay for that. Not a huge amount. Typically, on a good night, you can probably earn somewhere around twice, gross, somewhere around twice the minimum wage for the country. But then you have to minus some of your car expenses as well. On a really good night, you can make even 3 times that much. But again, after expenses, you're going to be making much less. You can become an animal caretaker or caregiver. Apps, programs like Rover, go to rover.com or download the app on a smartphone. You can sign up to care for or walk, even just walk a dog in your neighborhood and get paid for it. Think about that, walking, getting the exercise and getting paid for it and showing some love for some beautiful animals. And not just dogs, you can care for cats and other animals as well. If in your professional career you built up some expertise, and chances are after 30, 40 years you did, you might consider becoming a consultant to others in the industry. You can look at starting a blog there if you want to just do an internet search for how to start a blog or step by step how to start a blog. You might think, oh, I don't know what to write on. If there's something you're good at, and everybody is good at something, there are people that are not good at it. And you might think, well, there's other places they can go. That's true. But there's nobody else like you that they can go to, and maybe they make a better connection with you than with anybody else. So, and with some ads and with some referral income, blogging, you can make a few $100s to a few $1,000s a month. If you know your area quite well, if you've lived there for a long time, talk to your Parks and Recreation contact at the city or county, and become a tour guide. Maybe you can start as a volunteer and work your way into some sort of a paid tour guide position. If you own your own home or you own an apartment, you might be able to earn some extra income that way. You can rent out a room to a family member or a close friend or somebody you trust. Just do everything in writing if you do go down that path, so that there's no concerns about if somebody is not making their payment. Treat them like a landlord on paper, even if you don't treat them, if you treat them more like family or friends in person. You can even, if you have the energy, of course, you can be a substitute teacher at your local school, where they will pay probably about 10 times the minimum wage or 7 to 10 times your typical starting wage in your area for a day's work with the classroom at various levels. Okay, let's talk about debt. Now, debt is a huge issue in retirement. What are your options if you have debt and you want to get rid of it? Okay, besides home loans, which just pay them down as much as you can, or maybe you just want to make minimum payments, because if again, there's no discrimination in age when it comes to lending money. And so if you're 75 years old and you get a 30-year home mortgage, and you don't care about leaving the house to family members, when you're no longer there to make the payment, it's done. So it kind of defeats the purpose of owning a home. You might as well be renting for about the same amount and having somebody else take care of you. But there's a reason why, there's options for you when you're buying a home if you want to accelerate your debt repayment or just leave it where it is. But if you got credit card debts, one, you might be tempted to consolidate it. You might think, hey, well, I want to get out of credit card debt. I've got all these credit cards and I can just put them onto one credit card. I've got a balance transfer offer. That can work. And in limited number of circumstances, it does. Actually, it's less than half of the time it's a beneficial thing. More than half the time, actually quite a bit more, about 65 to 70% of the time, people will consolidate all those debts onto one card, and within a year to 2 years, guess what happens? They're paying all these debts over here on this new card, even if it's at 0% interest. What are they doing with these old cards? They're looking over here and say, well, I'll just use this one a little for this and a little for that. And within a year to 2 years, those old cards are now back up to their previous balances. And quite often people will have twice the debt that they started with before the debt, the balance transfer. So be careful consolidating onto a credit card. Your other options, you have to take this with a grain of salt. Understand it's coming from a credit counseling agency, but do start, if you're going to go third party, start with a credit counseling agency, nonprofit credit counseling agency. You don't want to work with MoneyFit, go to fcaa.org or nfcc.org. You will find their lists of nonprofit, trustworthy credit counseling agencies that can help you out. Any members of those industry trade groups are audited and are committed to best practices. A debt counselor, a credit counseling agency like MoneyFit helps you by working with your creditors to lower the interest rates. It's not a new loan. You are not consolidating your actual accounts. You're just consolidating your payment into one monthly payment. The credit counselor then disperses it once a month to all your creditors so they get paid. Because the interest rates are much lower generally, you're going to be out of debt a lot faster and at lower monthly payments. Typically, it can't be more than 5 years in length. You're going to be out of debt much sooner, and there's no prepayment penalties. That's debt management through a credit counseling agency. If you just look up debt counselor, you are going to get so many options on a return internet search. There is no one agreement as what a debt counselor is or does. But there are only really a few things that you'll find. Debt counselor can be a credit counseling agency, like I've mentioned, but it can also just be anybody calling themselves a debt counselor and trying to charge you to help you do what you want to pay off your debt on your own. They can call themselves a debt counselor. More likely, though, you're going to come across what's called a debt settlement company. These are typically for-profit companies. There are a few that nonprofit, but they all do the same thing. They tell you stop making payments. In fact, tell your creditor that you don't want them to contact you anymore. It's a big red flag for most people. It should be. And then they say, take that money that you were sending over there and send it to us now for the next year or two. And as we get up to about half of what you owe on some different accounts, we will then approach them, offer them half of the balance. If they accept it, it's called a settlement. That debt is out of the way. Problem with that is there's some major credit issues there that can affect not just your borrowing in the future, but also your car insurance, your homeowner's insurance, your life insurance. They can affect your ability to get another job or even to move in an apartment. The problem is very few situations it's successful. It's in the low single digits from external studies that I have seen of the industry. So understand that if you're going to go that direction, one, it's rarely going to work. Two, you're probably going to be sued before it ever works, if it works at all, meaning that they're going to take you to court, that creditor's going to win a judgment against you, and then they can start garnishing your wages, maybe take tax refund. They're going to try and get money legally. So that's debt settlement. Anything that says, hey, we can get you out of 50% of what you owe, turn around, go find something else. Unless you absolutely have complete confidence that is an organization that has done some good stuff for other people you know with similar situations. Because you can know somebody that worked for great, but if your situation is different creditors, it could end up in a catastrophe. And then the last thing is bankruptcy. Bankruptcy is there for a reason. We've helped people go through bankruptcy. People in their 70s, 80s even had some 90-year-olds going through bankruptcy. Typically, they've co-signed a loan for a child or a grandchild who then stopped making the payments and quite often didn't even tell their parent or grandparent that they stopped making payments. And 6, 7, 8, 12 months later, that parent or grandparent is getting contacted by collection agencies saying, you now owe us $25,000. If you don't pay up, we're going to take you to court. We're going to do this. We're going to. If it's that bad, we always recommend you consider looking for legal counsel who specializes in bankruptcy. Okay, now let's talk about some scam issues before we finish up. Can you identify these scams? Hopefully you have never experienced this yourself or haven't had a family member or friend experience it, but online medical or medicine, prescription drug purchases, still rife with scams. If you are ordering prescription drugs from out of the country, you are not just jeopardizing your wallet, but you're jeopardizing your health. They can say it's coming from Canada, but just because it's postmarked Canada, it may still be coming just through Canada. It may even be coming, if you're ordering it online, they can even say it's coming from Ohio or from Florida or from California. It doesn't matter where they say it's coming from. That can just be at one stop on its way from out of the country. Be very wary of ordering unless it's from a very reputable company that you have done your research on. Don't order when you know it's coming from a foreign country where the standards are much more lax, because not only, you might save some money, but not for what you're buying. You might just be buying salt, which can actually be really bad for you in some circumstances. So be careful of scams. This one is horrendous. It's awful to even think about. But there are fraudsters that will show up at the end of a funeral. They'll usually linger on the side or in the back. And then after they've done their research, they've seen the obituary online, they've gone on and looked at Facebook pages and learned who's who. And once everybody disappears except the widow or the widower, they'll approach them and they'll say something along these lines, or they might do it by phone, or and say something along the lines of, "Hey, I'm sorry about going through what you're going through." And here's the frustrating thing: is they even sound sympathetic. So what comes next is unexpected and catches you off guard. Then they say, "Well, 6 months ago I was going through a real hard time. Your husband or your wife didn't want to alarm you, but they lent me $10,000 to get me through." Or I lent them $5,000 or $10,000. They didn't want to come to you and alarm you. And so they asked me, and I lent them $10,000, and they were supposed to start paying me back last month or this month or next month. And so they come and they start asking you for debt repayment. If anybody ever does that within 3 or 4 months or even longer of the funeral, one, tell them to take a hike because it is really bad timing, even if it's legitimate. They can figure out another way. 2, tell them to take a hike because it's not legitimate. All you have to do is say, "Well, sorry, I'm glad he was so big-hearted or she was so big-hearted. Send me the paperwork and I'll talk to my attorney about it." "Oh, we didn't do any paperwork." "Yeah, that's because it's a scam. It didn't actually happen." So don't let anybody scam you out of money in a time of grief. Instead, say, "I'll tell you what," and just kind of slowly take your phone out, take a picture of them. Say, "I'm going to look through my husband's or my wife's Facebook pages and make sure I can find you there." If you take your phone out and get ready to take a picture, they're going to take off because it's a scam. All right, so that's one. There is no Nigerian prince or wife of Nigerian prince that will ever give you $1 million for helping them bring $10 million into the U.S. That is a scam, complete scam. People still fall for it, even though everybody knows. Promise of getting money for bringing. If it sounds so easy and you're going to get $1 million for it, please run. Please just hang up. Don't be polite. They're not polite because they're trying to scam you out of money. Don't be polite to somebody who you know is a scammer. There is no Nigerian prince or wife who has $10 million they're trying to get into the country and is willing to offer you $1 million or $500 if you will help them set up an account. You will end up spending thousands and thousands of dollars and never get it back. Same thing with a foreign lottery. A couple of things. One, it is illegal for Americans to have an interest in or to participate in foreign lotteries. if you win, it's illegal to bring that money, to have that money. So, but the ones that we're getting scammed on, these do not exist. You didn't just win a lottery that you didn't even remember entering. That doesn't happen. I worked with a gentleman and his wife a few years ago. He had been contacted by the Jamaican lottery, and they were promising him $1 million or so. And he was all excited. And surprise, surprise, a week later, he gets another phone call. He gets a phone call saying, "Oh, it's the check is hung up at the border. You have to pay the $500 fee to release it." And so they give him some sort of place to send money to. And by the way, anytime anybody ever asks you to make a payment with a gift card, scam. No matter how good it otherwise sounds, it's a scam. Do not pay anybody with gift cards. Scam. Scam, 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 scam. Got it? Okay. But this gentleman was asked to send gift cards and wire money, and every week or every 2 weeks or 3 weeks, he'd get another phone call saying, "Oh, there's something else." And they would say, "Don't worry about it. We'll just take it out of your winnings." So he was, in his mind, he's thinking, "Oh, look, I'm not out any money," because he's already counting the money that doesn't really exist, but the money that's coming to him. So he's thinking, "That's okay. It's just $500. I'll figure it out." By the end of the year, he had spent $30,000, his entire Social Security check, for a year. And they were still telling him he needed to send more money, more money, more money. Do not allow yourself to do that. Do not allow anybody you love to do anything like that. His daughter was enabling him, hoping that he would actually win that $1 million and share it with her. She was part of it, and because she was writing out the checks and sending the money for him. Do not do that for anybody you love. A very similar tactic, IRS scam. Somebody calls and says, "Hey, this is so-and-so from the IRS. Your taxes have been late, or there's a penalty from last year. You need to send, and our payment system is down, so you need to send us, go down to the store, buy this many Amazon gift cards or this many prepaid debit cards, and then give us a call and read us the numbers off the back." Scam, 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 scam. Do not pay anybody with gift cards or with debit card, prepaid cards online, on the phone. It is not legitimate. Hang up. The more you talk to them, the more they will they are masters at finding a psychological angle at us. Hang up and just don't even answer again. Okay, the last one I want to talk about is the mortgage fraud. Particularly reverse mortgage issues out there. You go online, you'll find a lot of companies advertising reverse mortgage assistance. A lot of them might be legitimate, they might be legal. That doesn't mean they're providing a good service. What I recommend is, if you're considering a reverse mortgage, if you don't even know what it is, don't consider it. If you have heard about it and you're considering it, talk to your state's Finance and Housing and Finance Authority or Housing and Finance Administration. Look up HUD certified counselor in your area. Look up NeighborWorks, your local NeighborWorks organization, and go in. They should offer free counseling in person or by phone. Talk to them about it. A reverse mortgage should only be a very last resort, like survival mode. Now, I am not a HUD certified counselor, but here is something to think about. You might be wowed with, hey, if I do a reverse mortgage, I sign over the house to such and such a lender, they're going to pay me $1,000 or $2,000, probably not, $1,500 for the rest of my life, whether I live for 10 years or 40 years. That sounds awesome. But what happens if the month after or 3 months after or a year or 5 years after you start the reverse mortgage, you break your hip, you end up having to go into assisted living, you don't get anything. You are out completely. They don't keep paying you. Your house is gone. You have it. It's only paying you while that is your primary residence. It is only there for very limited situations, very serious situations. So, and then there are just a lot of organizations that are scamming people, seniors, and I don't care who the spokesman is on TV that's recommending that you talk to somebody about a home, a reverse mortgage. Hey, it is not something you should be talking to anybody about except a HUD certified counselor in person in your area, in your county. Go again, NeighborWorks or HUD. Go look up HUD certified counseling. Find them in your area and meet with them in person at their office. Don't do anything else. It's just not worth it. It's your home. It's the most valuable asset that you own at the moment. Okay, if you would like a certificate of completion for this webinar, go to the website down there at the bottom, http://bit.ly/MF Seniors. That's MoneyFit. MF Seniors, all lowercase. No spaces, no dashes, dots, anything. You'll put in your name. You'll put in your email address. You need your email. We need your email address so we can email you certificate of completion. We will not store that and spam you at all. We don't use that for anything else other than that automatic generated certificate. It'll ask you for where you're at. That's just so that we can see where we're having an impact. And then it'll ask you to put in this passcode. 6 decades. No spaces, no dashes, no dots. 6, the number 6, and then spelled out. DECADES. 6 decades. Submit that, and within about 5 minutes or so, you'll have your certificate of completion in your inbox. If there's anything we can do for you, my email address is todd@moneyfit.org. My direct phone number is 208-286-3283. You can watch archived webinars at moneyfit.org/live-archive, or just go to the live, and there's a link there to archives. We do this every Thursday. We hope you'll join us again in the future, and have a wonderful afternoon or evening or whatever it may be. Thanks for joining me.